I've put my spray foam in here. I've let that dry, and I've come through and I've knifed to make my hill shapes, right? I've then let that kind of aerate for half an hour. And what you find is that there's still a little bit of gas and stuff trapped in these cells when it's been closed over. So just let that cure for a little bit longer. Right, what I'm now going to do is come along and do a bit of filling and then texture over the surface. Now there are lots of options that you could run here. So for example, you could put glue over these, whack scatter over the top of them, and be done. That'd be very, very quick. I'm going to do a kind of multi-step process, and I'm going to show you that now. All right, now that camera's in the right spot. So let's pick a couple of pieces here and see if I can show you the thing that's happened here. So after I've cut the top, I've got some quite large internal cavities here. So one of the things I like to do is you can come along with your fingers and just squeeze these down a little bit. Now I'm wearing gloves because it's going to get messy, a little bit messy in a moment. So I'm just closing up some of the cells by squeezing in there. But some of these bigger holes, I'm going to actually fill them with some caulking compound. So if you have a look here, this one's actually pretty good. Right. This one, couple of big ones on the top. This one here, what I actually did is, this was quite a large cavity here, so I cut into it a fraction to make it sort of take advantage of the hole that was there. Right, and so I've got a bunch of these. You see I've got some cuts and things through the middle of those. I'm going to show you how we deal with those right now. So we'll pick that one we started with. I'm just going to clear them out of the way. Now for this, I've got some acrylic gap filler. Okay, now this I've bought from Bunnings in Australia, but wherever you are, there'll be an equivalent thing here, and it's designed for sealing up gaps. Got my caulking gun. Now a couple of things I'll note on this: it does say flexible, paintable, and durable. That's a really important thing because I'm going to eventually want to paint this. Now I used to be able to get this in Australia in all different colours, at a really nice chocolatey brown colour. Now it only comes in white, but it's super cheap. So what I'm doing with the nozzle of this, I'm just basically putting a few squirts into the holes. Then I'm just going to run a little bit around the front here, and then basically just squirt a bunch on. Now again, I'm not an expert at this. There's going to be another video which shows you how to do this better, but this is how I do it. So I've squirted a bunch around. Now I've got a piece of flexible, it's like a credit card here. Piece of plastic will do, like the bit of ice cream container lid or margarine container lid, or probably just a piece of MDF. Right, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come along and just spread this around. You can't see it here, but I'm dodging video cables while I'm doing this. So around the front here, just going with the slope just to fill in that rough edge at the bottom. I'll wipe a bit of this onto another one. Now because this is acrylic, I could use a brush and a bit of water to clean some of this off. I'm not, because I like it to be quick and easy to do. And what I'm just looking to do here is to cover up as many of those holes. So all the big holes have disappeared. And I've left it with a pretty rough texture. I don't like any of those kind of really broad lines, so I'm just going to get rid of those. What I am going to do once this is finished, I'm going to put a cover, like a plastic coating, over the top of the whole thing. It's actually going to be a grout coating over the whole thing. So that one's kind of done. Then come along with my next one. Again, I've got a hole there, so I'm just going to do a bit of filling in that hole. Then put a bit of material on. The nice thing with this too is, especially if I'm getting it over the edge, I can come along and just clean it up with a knife once it's dried. Reasonably happy with that one. Right, on to my next piece. So with the base set of these tiles, I've got 12 of these to do. I reckon it's probably going to take me about 15-20 minutes start to finish. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this one on hold, and I'm going to go back to the big broad overhead camera and do a bit of time-lapse photography to show you me doing the whole set. Okay, the most interesting piece of all of these is our rocky outcrop. Right, as you can see, I've got quite a bulk sitting up on top here. Now I've started just by putting a little bit of the caulking compound in those flat sections to get that out to the side. Now there's no kind of system for this other than just basically filling it in. So I'm going to come along, I'm going to pump a bit of this stuff on, again the caulking compound, and I'm basically going to be looking to smear it over the front faces, that basically to fill in all the air pockets of the foam. It's probably going to get a little bit messy. That's why I've got gloves on, because I can reach in and grab hold of things. The problem you have with the gloves is it can get a little bit like the caulking compound will stick to the gloves. Right, so I was thinking that this is a lot like cake decorating, right, with a really odd shaped cake. So what I'm looking to do here is to just push the compound, or the caulking compound, into the surface, trying to cover up those things. Now I've put some little valleys and scrapes and stuff in there. So what I'm going to then do is come around and make sure those are still visible. This front face here, which has got no cut foam in it, I think I'm just going to leave that as it is. Just make sure I cover in all of the bits where I've got exposed foam. Get in under that bit there. Hopefully you can see in the close-up here that I've still got some air bubbles and things coming through the surface. I'm not worried about that because, as I said, I'm going to put some grout over the top of the whole thing just to seal it, bring it all together. So some of those holes are going to be covered. What I'm really doing is covering all the big ones. Plus, I'm kind of giving a surface for my grout to kind of adhere to. It will adhere to the foam, but I think it adheres better. Like, it's definitely got a better drying profile when it's got the acrylic compound underneath it. And that's going to be the next bit we do once this is all dried. Right, so you can see I've got that valley there. Like, in my head, I'm starting to think about where am I going to have piles of rocks, where might I have little tufts of grass and things to actually kind of build this into a scene. And hopefully the autofocus hasn't messed this up too much. Because it's a rocky outcrop, I'm going to put rocks and all sorts of things over it. Right, it's got quite a high degree of forgiveness, let's say. And it's not like you're painting a brand new, miniature that's, going to be, the centerpiece of something, and it, everything's got to be perfect. In this one, washes and extra bits of scenery are going to cover a multitude of sins. Might just pump a little bit more in there. I'm going to just come along and put a bit under the front here. And this is just trying to fill in some of that gap and make the whole thing so the rock doesn't look like it, or the formation doesn't look like it's just hanging in thin air. It's actually attached to the terrain around it. I'm just going to come around and check I haven't got any large air bubbles left. Check I haven't got too many outrageous lines. Check this blending into my surrounding piece, and I'm pretty happy with that. So now it's just a case of letting the whole thing dry. Now if we look at this piece here, you'll see that you can still see a little bit of bubbling through on the surface. So the caulking compound's covering most of the holes. There's a little bit coming through. I'm not worried about it, because when I put the grout mix or plaster mix over the top, that's going to cover. If I was going straight to paint, as long as I'm going to put a bit of flock over it, that'll actually cover that quite well too. So pretty much, as I'm saying, with all of these things, this is just my version of making these, and you might change that up, do your own version as you go. Okay, so the final thing I'm just going to do here while I've still got my gloves on, just go around and just give the edges of these just a little bit of a clean up. Just make sure there's no big chunky bits kind of hanging on the edges. All right, so now we're going to let this dry. Again, I'm going to leave this for 24 hours so it dries really thoroughly.